I've just come back from a couple of days at the Confederation of Passenger Transport annual conference. And when I was out there, we were hearing an awful lot about market disruptors, the Ubers of this world and so on. And when I was invited to do this presentation today, I thought, well, hang on, am I the market disruptor in this conference? Because I'm not a medical expert, I'm not an expert in air quality. I am a humble transport planner that I've been doing for the last 40-odd years. And as you can see up there, I'm the director of a regional transport partnership. So what I want to do today is just to remind everybody what a regional transport partnership is, because I always have to do that. Give you an overview of a joint report that we've agreed with the Transport Minister on how RTPs can assist government objectives in transport. A rundown of how regional transport strategies can contribute to what we all want to have as cleaner air. Some what I think are quite good examples of projects that are contributing. And then finally I'll get round to what I was asked to talk about, which is how can RTPs assist in the implementation of CAFs. So here we go. That's the RTPs. There are 7 regional transport partnerships in Scotland. They're statutory, independent, regional transport, strategic transport planning bodies. There's 7 of them, as you can see. My own one, SESTran's the green one down on the right-hand side there. Primary objective to produce and implement a regional transport strategy, which is a statutory document within the land use planning system, and planning and local transport strategies need to take account of it. So it's quite significant, the 7 RTPs that cover Scotland. Very recently, we finalised and published this document, Develop to Deliver, which was aimed at maximising the role of the RTPs as statutory bodies in assisting the government to deliver on its transport objectives. And fundamentally and importantly, this document has been approved by the Minister for Transport, by COSLA, and by all the 7 regional transport partnership boards. So it's quite a significant document, and we hope it's a step forward in furthering the theme of partnership, which we heard about this morning already. So what are the areas of influence that the RTPs have agreed with the Minister that we should be getting involved in? Partnership, building effective partnerships, we've been doing that for years. Improving integration of land use and transport planning, we heard that referred to this morning. Improving access to health and social care, and delivering a step change for bus integrated transport and ticketing information, all of which are heading in the right direction in my view. Contributing to the development of high-speed rail. For my sins, I chair the high-speed rail group in Scotland, representing effectively the 7 RTPs. Improving air services and ferry services, the lifeline services. Also, we've agreed that RTPs should have a stronger role in encouraging freight movement and encouraging more sustainable freight movement. Promoting and implementing active travel. We're getting into the nitty-gritty now. We heard about that this morning. The best mile not travelled is the one that you don't travel, or if you do have to travel, do it in a means of travel that's not generating and using carbon fuel. That's what active travel planning is all about. Travel planning, we've heard, is potentially a very successful mechanism. And the delivery mechanisms, primarily through partnership working with local authorities, with the government and with other transport agencies out there. And that's really what we're all about. So hopefully this report that we've now got agreed with the Minister will assist us as the 7 RTPs to move forward. I'll give you a couple of examples. And I make no apologies for the example being my own regional transport strategy, my own authority's regional transport strategy, approved by the Minister July this year, which was the first review from the first publication. Transport sustainability runs throughout that regional transport strategy. It's there, it focuses on facilitating economic growth, but also improving accessibility, especially for those without access to a car, and promoting healthier and more attractive. Did that say a more attractive population? More active population. So I reckoned I was falling at the first hurdle there when it was more attractive population. So in terms of the objectives of this regional transport strategy, there you go, economy up front and centre, accessibility front and centre. That's accessibility, that's not movement. You don't need to move to have accessibility. But importantly, contributing to the environment to ensure development's achieved in a more sustainable method. And there's the importance of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, the importance of sustainable travel, reducing the need to travel, minimise negative impacts, and reducing dependency on the private car. So these are all fundamental and central, I would argue, to the same themes and objectives of this conference. And when we move on to safety and health, increase the population of trips by walk and cycle, and help to contribute towards meeting statutory air quality requirements. So that's one example of a regional transport strategy. The high-level objectives of it are followed through in a series of policies and proposals as well. But you can see that in terms of regional transport planning, we're all effectively singing from the same sheet here. But it's not just SESTran. All 7 regional transport partnerships have their regional transport strategy, and they all have these same similar types of themes and emphasis on sustainable transport running throughout. So some examples of what I reckon are fairly good initiatives that the RTPs have brought forward. In the active travel area, we've been working on cycle-friendly routes for commuting. We're working closely with the local authorities and SESTrans. We have embedded officers. All 7 of us now have embedded officers in partnership with SESTran promoting cycling and active travel within our organisations. We provide funding through that mechanism to promote regional cycling networks. We leave the local authorities to deal with the local ones, but cross-border cycling networks are the area that we tend to focus on. We have sustainable travel grant schemes. We support the work of Smarter Choices, Smarter Places. We encourage and promote travel planning. And a very good example is the Aberdeen City Centre Master Plan, which is very much aiming at sustainable access and sustainable transport in and out of the city centre. This is an interesting one, a partnership that we in SESTran had with the Edinburgh Universities and the college, promoting the use of electric vehicles. There you have it there. They have 4 Nissan Leaf, 6 Mitsubishi, and there are 500 plus staff who are members on a booking system for movement between the various campuses within the city. And since it was started, that project has saved over 21 metric tonnes of CO2. Now, we're not talking CO2 today, but one of the factors that will come out today is that we shouldn't necessarily only be talking about CO2 in terms of environmental benefit. We should be able to translate that into NOx and PMs as well. Another good one, TripShare SESTran. This is our regional car sharing website. And there are similar ones in the other RTP areas, but our own one, launched in 2006, has now over 8,000 members in it who are regularly sharing journeys by car. They've saved over 1,000 tonnes of CO2 and over 3 million miles of journey by car sharing. And the equivalent of that that's equivalent to 13 trips to the moon one way. And we're working hard to get that up to 14 so that these guys can all get back to Earth again. But in terms of public transport, we encourage public bus and rail use, community rail partnerships, real-time passenger information. We've focused very heavily on that within our own region. Park and ride provision, supported services from some of the RTPs. They are directly responsible for procuring those. And in doing that, they're encouraging cleaner fuels, statutory quality partnerships, bus rapid transit, and many more initiatives in the public transport area, all of which are heading in the right direction, not necessarily going to make a step change overnight, but cumulatively do have an impact. Similarly in freight, we all have freight quality partnerships encouraging more sustainable freight. Our own authority produced a freight routing map which is designed to avoid the areas of major congestion. We've encouraged consolidation centres both in SESTran and TACTRAN. The Dundee Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan, again a good example. We did work in SESTran on empty containers. You don't want to move empty containers around in the back of trucks. How can we make that more efficient? We've encouraged freight hauliers to make greater use of Rosyth to Zeebrugge Ferry, which is the most environmentally sustainable way to get across to mainland Europe from Scotland. And again, all designed to reduce emissions. So these are some examples of what the RTPs are doing and will continue to do. In the direct environment of the CAFs, I've given you the quotation there on modelling, and we've heard it discussed and talked about earlier on this morning. And look at the map there of these national modelling framework areas that are being focused on within the CAFs. Pretty similar to the geographical areas of the east of Scotland's regional transport partnerships. And certainly within my own region, we have a regional transport model. We have, similarly, there's one up in Aberdeen. We heard a lot about that this morning. And we're happy to work with Transport Scotland and Scottish Government to work towards enhancing these models so that they're not just transport models. They are transport models that can predict changes in traffic movements, which can then be translated downstream into changes in emissions and the impact on air quality. They do need upgrading. They do need a lot of interface with other air quality models to do that. But if you're going to try and predict the best thing to do, you need to have some mechanism to predict the changes that you might affect through different transport policies. Example, there's about 40% of the traffic that comes in and that's milling about in Edinburgh comes from outside the city. So if you only model what's inside the city, you can't influence the trips in and out of the city, and that's where regional modelling will come in. And within the CAFs, RTPs are identified as a partner in there. We've heard again this morning about the National Low Emissions Framework, and I won't go through the quotation there, but that's a direct quotation out of the CAFs, and we've heard Stephen talking about it at length this morning. That slide there, I had a nice slide that actually had changed all the RTP references in there to nice and red so that you could see it. And then for some reason it got corrupted when I emailed it through here, so maybe that's a sign. But if you look down the various phases there of the low emission framework, every single phase quotes partnership with regional transport partnerships as a partner within that organisation, or within that initiative. So I think in conclusion, regional transport partnerships have low emission projects embedded within their regional transport strategies and their day-to-day work. You could argue we're not doing enough. I know we're not doing enough because we don't have the resources to be doing as much as we would want to do. But we do make significant contributions to Scottish Government and the delivery of its objectives. And we have been quoted and are embedded and integral within the CAF's strategy and happy to cooperate. So I'm Alan Campbell of the Malcolm Group, so I think that's a sign for me to finish. Thanks very much.